Hey guys, welcome back to Driveline Custom. I'm Oliver, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to do the whole custom driveline thing at home. So you're not going to want to miss it. Let's get into it. So here's the deal. Our driveline on our Roadster came off of a 49 Lincoln, 1949 Lincoln. Long driveline. On the Roadster, it's only, it's about 14 inches long. Originally, when I cut it off, to leave the transmission end on and give myself plenty of room. And I figured what I would do is I would just find another driveline that had the U-joint that matched. This is an open drive conversion for a banjo, the U-joint that would match this. And I just weld that on. That's one way to go about it. The other way to go about it, though, which I started pondering over the last couple days, is I went back and I have the Dana 52 or whatever it is that Lincoln had. And I still had this attached. It uses a form of a type of I think they call it a workman's joint. So I pulled it off. Now, to keep that rear end usable, I need to save this part. Otherwise, that rear end's kind of junk, because you're never going to go just track down one of these. I took this off, and I started looking at it, and they're not crazy different. They're different, but they're not crazy different. So I started thinking, okay, let's take a look at this. Got our little depth gauge, sliding depth gauge. There you go. It's pretty accurate though, to the end here. So I took this off, and I measured the ends of the U-joint that fit into this, the end of the driveline for the Lincoln. Measure that out, and it came out to 1 1/16 size caps, which is a common size, by 3 1/4 across. So that's the measurement you want to get. You want to get the distance across, size of the cap. That'll tell you what this end looks like. It's supposed to fit in here. So okay, I figured that out, and then I got to figure out. Next, I got to take a look and figure out what this is, because I don't know. This is just a standard aftermarket open drive conversion. So I measured that. It is 1 3/16 across. Another standard size. Now that size is what's known as the big Ford size cap. Standard size. Distance across, 3 5/8. Another standard size. So I started pondering that, and I thought, well, if this is a standard size and this is a standard size, maybe there's a adapter U-joint. So I started looking online. I found out that there's a 1310 to 1330 BC U-joint. BC meaning big cap. I didn't want to order one online and not be certain. In hindsight, I'm certain. And so what I did is I went down to O'Reilly's and I started digging around there for the same thing. It is replacement part number 348 for Master Pro. They had it right behind the counter. And sure enough, it's this looking thing. It's not square. It looks kind of like a cross. And the smaller side of that cross is perfect for this end. And the bigger side of that cross is perfect for this end. It's greasable, Whole deal. Now, when I got this open drive conversion, I got it. It's new and it wasn't used, but I got it in a lot of parts and I didn't get straps. So sure enough, part number 492-10, they had right down there also behind the counter. That includes long enough bolts to go through here and hardened steel caps. So there you have it. So anyway, now that we've got all that figured out, what we're going to have to do, we are going to have to take this, and you can see how they welded this on. Really nice weld. Probably did it on a machine that lays a perfect weld on there. So what we're going to do, though, if you look down inside there, I don't know if you guys can see that, this thing's got a little insert that slides inside this size shaft. So what we'll do is we'll take a flap wheel and we're going to grind this weld down till we get it nice and thin, and we'll see if we can just break this off of here. And from there, we've got the end we need, almost as it was when it came from the factory. So we will just cut our drive line on the other end to the length we want. We have to cut it square, and we will insert this, tack it on 4 sides, make sure it stays square, and then we'll just throw our bead around it. Shouldn't be an issue, right? Right. So that's how we're going to do that. I'll take you guys along with me and you can check it out. Let's get First thing we're going to do is clamp this end into the bench vise. Now this piece is not the piece we're going to be using, not the piece of driveline. But when you clamp any driveline into a bench vise, you got to be really careful not to squeeze down because you can bend it. And when you bend it, you're going to make it not balanced anymore. What we're doing is we are grinding down the factory welds on that end piece, seeing if we can get it thin enough to break the tube off, because we won't be using this piece of driveline tube. Okay, now what we're going to see if we can do is maybe just pinch this and see if it breaks the weld. Just see what happens. So let me think here. I suppose what I could do, I could mark this thing and go along with the cutoff wheel and just put a groove in it. See if I can groove it deep enough to do that. Okay. Let's get a cutoff wheel out. Oh, we already got one. Okay. So now, as you can see, we've ground down the weld and we've done a pretty nice and even cut around there. I don't want to bend this inner part of the cast end. Cast or forge, whatever this is. I think it's cast. It looks cast. I want to... Maybe I'll try cutting a flap. Try this. Let's see how close we are. Not quite. Okay, that's the edge. Let's see if we can break that now. There we go. Cracked it open. Pop goes the weasel. Okay, so as you guys can see, I finally got that to crack off of there. So now we just got to pry it off, and it should just come loose the rest of the way. There we go. And there she is. Just like that. That's what we need. Okay. Put that on there. Now we got to figure out how deep this is going to go in here so we can figure out where we need to cut it. It's seated all the way into the transmission, which is too much. So it needs to be a little shy. I would say right there. So this is our, oops, sorry. This is our line right here. When that's on there, seated up to that, it'll have room for this to slide in and out just a little bit. You want to have play. You don't want to have it shift. You know, you hit a bump and the rear end goes down and it drives the drive line into the back of the transmission. You don't want to do that. You want to have a little play. There she goes. Oh, okay. As you can see, we have our tube. We have our piece that slides right into our tube. And we have our mark. So what we're going to do, don't want to pinch that, just want to hold it. Don't want to bend it. We're going to measure from this edge to here. And that's going to give us our distance, which we can replicate all the way around. Okay. So I take this right flush to the end here. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to just mark my measuring device right there. That's my distance. So if I come right to here, that's my line. And then, don't lose that. I can rotate. Come right to there. And that's my line. There. That's my line. I'm making sure we're staying square. To there. Flush. Line. Flush. Line. Make that line more visible for us. Easier to cut by. So we're going to take a piece of tape and use it as a guide. Not that piece. The tape with sparks flying and everything else will be a lot easier to see. And just make sure you're hitting each of your Sharpie marks like that. So that is square. That line is square now to this end. So now what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and we'll cut perfectly along that, and then we'll check it. Check the measurements again. There we be. Got that cut off. Let's make sure we are square. Oops, flipped it. There. Ooh, that's perfect. Perfect. You can also just kind of get a feel for it. When your cut ends exactly where it started, probably square. Perfect. Remember, don't tighten that down too much if you're using a vise. You pinch your tube, and perfect. Oh, you know what? We've got a little burr action going on there. So let's clean that up. Ooh. One thing you want to do when you're doing this part is make sure that your U-joints line up with each other. So the U-joint in the front should line up with the U-joint in the back. They should mount evenly. I actually messed up a little and I mounted mine just a couple degrees off. It shouldn't matter that much on my Driveline. It's very short. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. But you want to be careful about getting your U-joints too far off because they will turn at different speeds and can cause premature wear. Be really careful tapping on these. You don't want to deform or break these, and you're all done. Okay, I would say that's seated. So let's go ahead and start measuring and just check everything. I'm going to put a new line on. So I'm going to measure end to end. This is my new line. That one's good. Obviously, I made my line there. Let's see here. Perfect. Perfect. And perfect. That's as good as it gets, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flap wheel that real quick, get it cleaned up. I'll put some tap. Sweet. To measure again. Don't just weld that on without checking it. Okay, this is the side we had from before. Line up, perfect. Line up. Perfect. And perfect. Did not budge. Now we can start laying our beads. Okay. So there's just a couple little nibs here where I got let's get this U-joint in. Some of you already know how to do this, I'm sure, but putting the U-joints on, I like to I pull the caps off the side that I'm going to install. I stick it in between there, and then I slide it into the cap, making sure not to lose your little needle bearings. Slide it into the cap to keep them from falling out, and then I use the bench vise to squeeze it in, get it close. And then I put the other cap on, do the same thing, squeeze it in, get it close so that they're seated and the U-joint itself is holding all the needle bearings in place. And then I'll use something that fits around the end of the cap and just tap it in the rest of the way to set the, you got to clear for the groove to set the little pins. So here I'm using just a little driver, and then I'm going to set a little I don't know what you call it, horseshoe keeper retainer pin thing in there, a little clip. But that's how you do that if you don't already know. And there you have it. One homemade Driveline. Well, home adjusted, home modified, however you want to call it. Fit in real nice. That's pretty much the end of this video. Real happy with how it turned out. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Shop day coming up.